On this edition of Down the Right Field Line, we're talking Marlins bullpen. Who's in, who's out, and what's the deal with pitch counts? All that and more coming up next. Welcome to Down the Right Field Line. I'm back in the MIA and just coming out, checking out the new digs at the Marlins Park. And Rob, how was Fanfest? I unfortunately missed it, but what did you think of it?
Well, it was amazing. I got to talk to a lot of Marlins fans, and we got to explore the different parts of the ballpark. Unfortunately, we couldn't go above the first level. We couldn't go into the club level and the upper deck. But even the first level, we got to see so much. They have all types of different food options. I mean, it's amazing. You go into the outfield, you can see downtown Miami. They have standing room only places out there that you can just watch the ball game in center field. It's really amazing. And I think the thing that people were focusing on the most at Fanfest was that home run sculpture. And if you watch our previous episode and kind of see what fans reacted about that. We had a lot of mixed feelings about it. So check it out and see what fans thought about it.
Well, let's get right to it. We're talking Marlins bullpen, and this is the bullpen that we project for 2012 breaking camp. Let's start it off with Cishek, Steve Cishek. Cishek in 54 innings pitched, posted a whip of 117 with 55 strikeouts. We look for him to be the long man in the Marlins bullpen. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, Cishek really stepped up at the end of that last year. You really started seeing the dominance. I mean, I wouldn't say this guy's the most dominant relief pitcher you've ever seen. He gives that different feel with him. And I like the fact that he's young and he's willing to go out there and show his stuff. He doesn't get nervous by situations or anything like that, and you really saw that at the end of last year. And I think Jack McKeon had a lot to do with that because he gave the kid a little bit more confidence. So, I'm expecting a lot from him next year, as I'm expecting for a lot of the players, but with him particularly because I think he can really solidify that bullpen so that you have a guy that can go long, just like Badenhop did a couple years ago, and then you have Bell at the other end, so you can kind of see where you are early on in the game and at the end of the game.
Next on the board, we got lefty Mike Dunn, acquired from the Atlanta Braves last offseason. We saw Dunn face, both lefties and righties last season, and, up and down throughout the season last year. Rob, what can we expect from Dunn?
Dunn is a very important guy in the bullpen as well as Cishek. You want to see those guys in the beginning start to step up. Later on, we're going to be talking about other pitchers that are further towards the back of the bullpen. When you have a starter that doesn't go 7 innings, you need those guys to come in and step up. And I think Dunn, if he, early on in the season, you started seeing him be that guy, and we almost used him kind of as an 8th inning guy early on. And, later on he started faltering. We need to see him step up. In 2010, when he was with the Braves, you saw that he had a lot of potential. I mean, he had an ERA under 2, and, you just started seeing things come out. And as a lefty, that's what you want. Now, Dunn has kind of stepped up to be he can get lefties out, but he can also get righties out. And when you have a lefty that can get righties out, that's really important because you can bring him in, he can pitch 1 or 2 innings, as opposed to other pitchers that just come in for 1 or 2 batters.
Next, we got Ryan Webb. Webb acquired from the Padres in the Cameron Maybin deal last year. He pitched for us, and he was out for a while with elbow issues, but he did manage to pitch 50 2/3 innings, in which he posted a 3.20 ERA. Rob, what can we see from Webb, hopefully with a full season under his belt?
Well, Webb, just like Cishek and Dunn before him, those three guys, you want those guys to get you innings. They're key to get to that 7, 8, 9, kind of shutting down the game. So those three guys need to be able to do that. And that's another person, Webb. He really, you saw instances last year where he stepped up, and in some instances he just didn't have it. So, that inconsistency comes with young players. But this year's a different year, and, he has one more year of experience, and hopefully we see him step up. And that ERA is still around the number you want to see out of a relief pitcher. Some pitchers are going to be really dominant and be in the 1s. Then you have others in 2s. 3, for a young pitcher in the bullpen, that's pretty good. So we'll see if he can continue that and hopefully, just get us innings.
Our next Marlin reliever is none other than Randy Choate, the lefty specialist. Choate in 24 2/3 innings struck out 31 batters, and the most important stat, in my opinion, a 1.45 batting average against left-handed hitters. That's incredible, and the thing that really sucks here is that he was hurt towards the end of the season. What can we see from Choate? More of the same, or do you think we have a problem?
The Marlins really do a good job when they do their due diligence and look out and seek out different players they want to sign long term. Last year we went after Choate heavily. And a lot of people had a lot of questions with that because, last year we didn't have that big of a payroll compared to previous years. And they're like, well, why is a team like this going out and getting Buck and Choate and signing them long term? Here's the reason. Now we're going to the new ballpark. Now we have a formidable bullpen like we've been talking about. And Choate is a key person to that. Sign him for a couple years. He's going to be able to be that lefty specialist out of the bullpen, and like Rafi just mentioned with those stats, he's the real deal. He provides those outs when you need him to get a lefty out. He comes in, and that sidearm lefty thing is, it's really hard to pick up as a lefty hitter. So he's key to be able to bring that guy in. And again, having two lefties in the bullpen is so important, because you can use Choate early, and then you still have Dunn, or vice versa. So those two lefties are so key in this bullpen. It's really exciting. Hopefully Choate can stay healthy all year, because we're really going to need him.
Our projected setup guy, Edward Mujica, provided that Oviedo's situation gets resolved, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, had a tremendous year last year. The 9 wins, and Jack McKeon mentioned it, he was his good luck charm out of the pen. It seemed like anytime the Marlins were tied or down or whatever the case may be, Mujica would come in, and the following inning the Marlins would take the lead, and well, there you go, 9 wins out of the pen. This guy is just happy-go-lucky, and it showed. It showed with the stats, and I think that I'm really excited for this guy. What do you think, Rob?
Well, it's a good thing that Showtime's going to be following us, because, you just start seeing all these characters all over the clubhouse, and Mujica and Bell are probably going to have a ball out there in the bullpen, because both of them are big jokesters, and, they like to have fun. But the thing I like about, Mujica is that, he comes out, he has fun, like Bell. He has fun and then comes out and pitches very well. Unlike, people like Ronel Pinto, who had fun in the bullpen but sucked on the mound. So with him, if he's that 8th inning guy, or even if he's a 7th inning guy, he's got to just continue doing the same. When you have a whip that's around 1 as a relief pitcher, that's pretty good. And then his ERA is pretty good. It's under 3. So if he continues doing what he's doing, he's probably going to get a lot more holds, depending on where he is, 7th, 8th. But you start seeing the back end of the bullpen really set up to be, pretty dominant, amongst the best in the National League.
Our next guy in the pen is Juan Carlos Oviedo. Now, I know what you're thinking. He's not in the club yet, or he's on the restricted list. If the situation in the DR gets resolved, and provided that he gets the amount of innings pitched in spring training, then I could see him have hit that setup role for the Marlins in 2012. In all seriousness, I think the whole name saga got to him in terms of performance on the mound. After a while, I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere, but I think it was eating him inside. The fact that I believe his father wanted him to change his name back to his original name, and it got, I guess, to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. Now, Rob, we know he's not going to be the closer, so I think those save numbers are out the window, but what can we see with Leo, or Juan Oviedo, there I go again, as the setup guy?
Well, with him, it's, one way or another. Sometimes he's going to be dominant, sometimes he's not. But I think the most important thing for him is to get back here, if we can get him back, get into spring training and just start, throwing. And, throwing his slider, throwing his changeup, not always throwing his fastballs in all situations. So get him in, and you have to remember, last year, I'm pretty sure he got something like 12 or 13 straight saves in the beginning of the year. I mean, this guy was dominant. He was when you saw the National League saves leader, he was up there with Bell and all the other guys. And hopefully, as an 8th inning guy, which I've said in other episodes, I see him as an 8th inning guy. He can go back and be a good 8th inning guy, and instead of racking up the saves, racking up the holds.
Last but certainly not least, we have our new addition in Heath Bell, big burly closer, and no pun intended on the Mark Burley, by the way. So anyway, Rob, what can we expect from Heath Bell here in Miami?
Well, like you mentioned, he pitched with the Padres, and when he was with the Padres, he was at Petco a lot of the time, and that's a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, and so is Marlins Park. I mean, we're projecting it to be a pitcher's park. Who knows once we get there? But going back to Heath Bell, he's going to be pitching along the same conditions that he did back in San Diego, and I think he's going to get really comfortable in it. He is a strikeout pitcher. You can see his strikeouts and his ERA. He has a very good ERA for a closer, under 2.5. So his whip is a little bit high for a closer, but he still gets the outs with a lot of strikeouts. And I'm actually projecting Heath Bell to get to over 45 saves, let's say 48, and pass and break the Marlins record of 47 established by Armando Benitez in 2005. So Rafi, what do you think? Do you think he can get to that number, or is he going to be, hovering around it?
Man, a fan would say, as a fan, I'd say, yeah. I'd say let's go for it. I say he should do it. But I think he's going to be in that hovering stage from that 43 to 46 range. So just shy of the record. Well, that wraps it up for the Marlins bullpen. The last few weeks, we've been projecting both the infield, the outfield, rotation, and the bench, the whole 25-man roster. So if you, for some reason, missed any of those previous shows, just click on those videos on the side here. Rob is now going to be talking about his fair or foul segment on pitch counts during spring training and early on in the season. Rob?
A lot's been said, especially in spring training. How much should a pitcher pitch in spring training? You don't want to wear the guy out. The guy hasn't pitched for however many months. You're worried a lot about the shoulder. And that almost continues going into April. And you start thinking, well, spring training, it makes sense. Maybe you only let the guy throw 50 pitches and then you ramp him up as spring training ends. But then come April, you won't let the guy go more than 5 or 6 innings, maybe 75 to 95 pitches. But you definitely won't let the guy go 110, 120. But then you start thinking, yes, that you're saving the guy's arm for later on in the season, but think about the Red Sox. The Red Sox last year started off really slow, and then they ended really bad. But at the same time, had they gotten 1 or 2 wins in April, they might have made the playoffs. People always say you don't win the division in April, but you can certainly lose the division in April. Now that we're going to be going into a year where there's going to be 2 wild cards, and then you're going to have to play that one game to make it to the division series, that winning the division is going to be really important. Now, I'm not saying that you should let the guy throw 110, 120. I understand why you want to take the guy out. But maybe in the spring training, maybe you start ramping him up a little quicker so that once he gets to April, he could throw 100 pitches. He could go deeper in the game and start developing a season of consistency. So I'll be interested to see what you guys think about that. But in my case, you know, April is just as important as September. And because of that, we want our starting pitchers to go deep into the game.
Question of the week: should managers instill a pitch count on pitchers early on in the season? Well, that does it for this episode of Down the Right Field Line. But before we let you go, we'll leave you with our random video of the week, which we like to call the Breakout. Later.